Hi, so as promised, we're going to go through a bit more of my process on this now. I didn't show you the beginning. I will go through the beginning process at some point, but just to give you an idea of how I start, I'm using Art House Whimsy printables at the moment. So I didn't use these particular ones, but just to show you, I've printed them off on A4 sheets. Now this is printer paper. And I use printer paper. I like to use rice paper, but it can get a bit expensive. So what I've done is I've started the background based on two identical back pieces. Now these aren't identical, but you get the idea. So if you like this one, for example, I would print out two of these. And then I stick them onto, I use water and a paintbrush just to tear these. Perhaps I'll show you that now, just so that you can see. So when you get your printables, you obviously have to buy them from Art House Whimsy or wherever you like the work. And I just get a wet brush, and I'm leaving a bit of white. So I'm just using plenty of water. Let that sink in a little bit, and then I'm pulling this off. It's not as good as rice paper, but it does give you a jagged edge, which means that this is much easier to hide within your piece of work. So I did both of these, like so. And again, I leave that bit of white at the bottom. It's just something I do. There's no reason to it. So I'm just going to pull this out like that. So there's my two pieces. Now, if I get my book back and hope that that actually goes in the right place, we'll see. So this I've stuck on here. So you take this bit off as well. I've cut this bit off. I'll do that. I'll show you. So I've cut this bit off like so. I mean, you can tear it as well, but it's going in the folder of the book in my case. So I would put that in there like that and stick it down right in the folder of the book. And then you've got a bit overhanging here. Now, because it's sort of a, I mean, you might say this is upside down. I did upside down, downside up, so they're different. But I just cut that off, and then this piece I stuck at the top. And I did that on both sides. So on this side I did it that way. I turned it around and did it that way on the other side, just to give me a bit of diversity, if you like. So that's how my background started. Now, my big bugbear with using paper, and in fact embellishments, is the fact that they show. Some people like just sticking things on and it looks pretty and that's it, finished. But for me, I can see the edges. It's not my work. It's not finished. So I'm going to show you what I do now to hide some of these pieces. It's more obvious here. Can you see there's a line and a bit here where I haven't quite matched the paint? And I want to get rid of that. So what I've done is I normally get a selection of stencils. I don't keep mine in their packets. I have no idea. Some of them have got things on, and that's Stencil Girl. That's like writing. So I've got that one, and I look for things that are basic, like got lines or letters, different shapes, words. That's quite a nice one, that one. I think that's, I don't know whose that is. Is that, yeah, that's Stencil Girl again. She does some wonderful ones. I've put that to one side. I don't want that one. I got this. So can you see this like dotty, liney bit here? And you've got dots there. These are all things that I can use. I found one with bats on. Don't know where I got that from. And I probably won't use the cobwebs, but the bats certainly I might use. And again, just odds really, things that are just, you know. And I found this as well. This is Clarity Stencil. I don't think I've even used this one, but these are quite good, especially if you have problems with your texture paste. I'll show you how to get around that in a minute, but you got to be careful. These, if you use them with paste, then obviously you've got to clean them. But I like this one because it's got branches, and that appeals to me in this particular layout. And it's also got small leaves. Now normally this is for just normal paint or inks or whatever, but I'm not precious with my stencils. I tend to use them where I need them, because after all that's what they're for. So I need to find something that's going to cover this, and I'm using a thick stencil paste. I'm just going to find this one. I quite like this one here, and I like this dot, and I like this alphabet here as well. That's quite nice. And I'm using Art Basics, which is Prima modelling paste, and it's quite thick. It's not quite as I don't know, soft and liquid as all the others. It's got more it's more substantial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find, it doesn't have to mean anything, but I'm just going to get my paste and I'm going to put it around this area here. Okay, you can put as much or as little as you want on, just to break that up, like so. It doesn't have to mean anything, it doesn't have to say anything, but it's starting to put things over there. And if you don't like it all over the place, you can just use your finger to go around the edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build up a little bit around here anyway, just to add a little bit of texture. And I'm just stippling with my finger. Doesn't matter if it's white, we'll go over it again with colour. I'm just looking at where it's more obvious. It's obvious around the back. So I'm just going to get my finger and I'm just stippling around. I don't sort of keep it in one place. It's not supposed to be, it's not obvious once it's painted. So that bit there as well. I apologise for my croaky throat. I have got a cold. I've always got a cold. There you go. That's that one. So that's not too bad. And as I say, a light stippling will hide that line. And if it doesn't, I'll come back and do it again. I'm not worried about, get some of that off my finger. I'm not worried about coming back. And I'm not worried about wording. I just want a little bit of texture. So I've got some over here. I just need to do something over here. So I'm going to do it just there. Just a little bit on there like that. I think that's about right. Now the other thing I've got obviously is this bit at the bottom. I'm just going to put that to one side. If I've got some water in a bottle, I've got a bowl, so I'm just going to squidge this with water and put it inside a plastic bag so that it doesn't go hard. I'm just gonna, that's what I do. I get, you know, the bubble wrap bags that come, I stick that in there with some water and that'll keep that wet until I can clean it. Okay, so that's that one. So I've got this bit at the bottom here, which I also need to do, but I don't really want to put white paste onto it. So I'm going to make the modelling paste black. And I'm going to do that, she says, with, you can never find, there we go, that'll do. I mean, this is my go-to. It's all dry, I think, except, oh, that's not, that's handy. So I'm just going to put some of this in here. And this is like some old black paint. I think there's a little bit left in it. Yeah, so I'm just going to mix that up to start it going grey. That's what I was using yesterday. It goes dark grey. It just makes it a bit nearer the colour that I want, like so. I'm going to add that then to my page. Is black. So I'm going to put this under here and I'm just going to use my palette knife and I'm going to start building this up. And I haven't got a lot of it actually. I will use my finger in a minute, but let's spread the most of it around here. Okay, so that's got a little bit of texture paste in it. I think there's a little bit more there. And it's just got a little enough in it just to make it stipple impossible to hide that horrible black line. That's the difference between things sticking out and things not. I'm going to use a bit of the white as well because there's not enough. All the marks you make on here are going to show up on your paint, so it's worth just adding a little bit down here. Because I've already painted the background, I know roughly where I want things to be. So I'm just going across now. Now, one of the things I have done before I've done this is I've added clear gesso to the page. So everything I've done underneath is protected at this moment in time. The idea is I do the acrylics first and I go back with watercolour where I can, because I can control it a lot easier. It's easily removable, so we're just going to get this up here like so. We will paint over all of this. Just want to give it a little bit of height. As I say, I'm not keen on 3D elements, but these are Graphic 45, and how can you not love Graphic 45? And I want to include them on here, because if you don't, when will you ever use them? There you go. So I know it looks a mess. That's my process. That's how I do it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back, and then I might do a little bit more, or I might paint it. We'll see. Right, so I've stood back and had a look. I just need a little bit more. I'm not going to do the bats. I think that'll overdo it. I don't want it too Halloween-y. I'm just going to add a few little bits and pieces. I'm going to use this, which is numbers. Make sure you get these things around the right way, because it does look a bit strange. Right, let's just wash this off. I have got loads of these, but I can't find them. Right, let's put that in there. So I'm going to use these numbers, which are that way. Maybe a little bit of this as well. I don't know yet. So I want to break up this area here. So I'm just going to go around and put this on. You see, it makes a, and you can always go back in if you don't, if you've got too much detail, you can always go in and just move it around like so. Go a little bit here, like that. Again, just, it's not really going to show anything, it's just going to give a little bit of texture. It's not going to do anything exciting, but once it's coloured in, it is going to make a little bit of a difference. I might just, if I can, a little bit in there. A little bit on the bird. So that'll do. Okay, that's it now. I'm definitely going to dry it and we'll take it from there. So to mix the colours, now that this is dry, I don't clean my palettes. I just don't. It's just one of those things. I'm going to do this by eye, and I'm using Stamperia. Now for this, I'm going to use titanium white, light blue and black. Just those three colours to create all of those. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into little palettes. So I'll put them on the side. So that's blue, obviously. You need quite a bit of white. So we'll do 2 white. We'll do 1 there and 1 there. And then black. You don't need a lot of black. Black goes a really long way. So we put it right out the way of everything else, if there's any left. Oh, there you go. Just a little bit like that. Right, so we're going to mix some colours. And it's starting off with the basic grey. So I'm going to take a bit of black, and I'm going to take some white. I'm going to put that up there, and I just start mixing it in like so. At this point I've got no idea whether the colours that are on the palette are actually going to mix into the grey. I'm looking for different colour greys, and I'm just going to now grab a bit of blue, put it in there like that. You see, I'm not mixing the whole thing, I'm doing in areas like so. You see how black the black is. I know that sounds really daft, but there's lots of different sorts of blacks, don't forget. No black's the same, they're all different. So that's my base grey that's got blue in it. I quite like that one. I'm going to add a little bit more. You'd be surprised how close you can get to the colours on your palette. So now I'm taking the blue and add a little bit of black. And you've got more of a grey bluey colour now. And this is starting to look a bit like this one up here. So you just touch it up slightly. And just see what you've got, whether you can use it as part of this. It's just a little bit too blue. Just take a bit more of this. Let's have a look now. That's better. So can you see it's sort of, I'm just going to go over my texture paste. That's not bad. You're never going to get it absolutely, but it's enough to trick the eye into thinking that you've got it exactly right. So I'm just going over the areas that are that colour. I don't want to change too much of the colours that I already have there. So I'm just going over this like so. I'm just going to make this slightly lighter. I've already got some grey on my brush, so I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit. I'm keeping that grey in it. Nothing on here is white. White will look strange. Might need a little bit more. So this is a little bit pinky here, so I'm going to change that in a minute. And this is going to be lighter colour coming down here. I will go over this again. I'm just mixing all the colours up all the time. Just adding bits. Right, so see here. Use your fingers. Don't be frightened to use your fingers, because it just got a bit of grey blue down here. And I know you can't probably see it, but it's doing what I want it to do, and that is, it is actually hiding some of those stark lines I've got on here. Just making them disappear a little bit, like so. It all adds to the texture, it all adds to the finished thing. It's a case of blending and looking at it and standing back and looking at it again, just to see if it's working or if it's not. Now this has gone a bit mushy because of the paste, but I quite like that. And it's round the moon, which is always good. Right, so I'm going to dry that again. Just a little bit down here. That needs to be a bit darker, I think. And you can see that starting off with the papers, you're actually mimicking the colours that you start out with. So whatever you start out with, that's what you're going to mimic. And you can see this here. I don't know if it's dry enough yet, but I'm going to mix in this bluey grey and make it just a little bit wetter. Get some of the paint off the brush, like so. I would normally get a dry brush, but I can't find them at the minute, so I'm just going to take as much paint out of that as I can, and I'm just going to start changing the colour on this here. I'm going to do it gently because I don't think it's particularly dry at the moment. I'm just going to do it with gently, so I'm going to lighten it up to grey rather than white, like so. Just to give a little bit more texture here, and you do it very gently, you'll start to bring out the texture that you put on, the stippling that you put on underneath. You're just going to do it really gently. It also makes it look like it's not quite a solid lump, which is what you want to try and get away from. You want it sort of to be a broiling sort of. I'm just going to make that a little bit darker. Right. You're just picking up the mark. Sorry, I go quiet when I'm when I'm concentrating. Just hang on, and then just here, because it's white, you can just add a little bit of black. You see the marks coming through. Just adds a little bit of texture to that. It looks like a broiling sea now. I quite like that. We'll see if we can. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to cover that first. Yeah. A little bit of white on my brush, so just going to colour that in a little bit so it's black. Like so. And then I'm going to dip my brush and see if I can find a dry brush. Let me just dry that for a second. I just use the heat gun. I'm very impatient. It might not actually be deep enough, but I'm not very patient at all, I will say. I'm one of the most impatient people you'll ever meet. But I can sit here for 2 or 3 days until I get it right. I'm patient in that way, but I'm not patient in waiting for things to dry. No. Just so it looks like there's something there. You could also do texture on the blackbird, of course, and there's still lots more to do. But that is the acrylic. Now, what I'm going to do now is I've got clear gesso. So I'm going to leave this for about half an hour just to make sure it's set. And then I'm going to paint over the entire thing again with the clear gesso, which means I'll then be able to use watercolours to do the other bits and pieces that I want to do.